I hit my lowest GKI of 0.7. How did I do that, and what the heck is a GKI? Hey, sit back, we're gonna answer all of these questions and a few more. I'm Joe with Wellness Weigh-In, registered nurse by profession, health coach by passion. Let's go. All right, so what is the GKI? It stands for Glucose Ketone Index. It's basically a calculation that was used to measure and monitor the efficacy of metabolic therapies in patients who were suffering from diseases like cancer, epilepsy, and other chronic inflammatory conditions. Today, however, the GKI has been adopted by ketogenic dieters alike, who are basically looking for a way to quantify their efforts. We're just looking for a way to see how effective our dietary changes are at inducing ketosis. Now, the GKI was developed by a man named Thomas Seyfried, professor at Boston College. Now, you need to look up the works of this man, Thomas Seyfried, and the cutting edge research that he and his team are engaged in. He is basically revolutionizing the way that cancer is treated by targeting and exposing the cancer cell's energy metabolism, namely its fermentation pathway. In other words, cancer cells use the fermentation of glucose and glutamine to produce energy and multiply, right? That's the definition of cancer: dysregulated and disorganized multiplication. So if you cut off the fuel source of glucose and treat the glutamine with inhibitors, you can essentially, quote unquote, starve the cancer cells. And if you trickle in some chemotherapy on top of that, you have a recipe for remission. Now, Dr. Seyfried uses the ketogenic diet to put the body in a state of low blood glucose, and the otherwise detrimental effects of hypoglycemia are completely mitigated by the elevated ketone levels. This is the state we call ketosis. So Thomas Seyfried and his group at Boston College developed the GKI calculation, and this is used to assess how deep you are into ketosis. And it's really a simple calculation. You basically take your blood glucose in millimoles divided by your blood ketones in millimoles, and you get that final number. Now, in the States, when we take our finger stick blood sugar, oftentimes our machines read our blood sugar in different units called milligrams per deciliter. So in order to convert milligrams per deciliter into millimoles, you just take that number and divide it by 18. Now, I'll be sure to put both versions of the formula on both sides here so you can write them down. I'll also place it in the description below. But once you get the result of that equation, you then take it and compare it to the scale. Now, anything from 6 to 9 is considered mild ketosis. Anything above 9 is not in ketosis at all. So 6 to 9, mild ketosis. Anything from 3 to 6 in the middle there is moderate ketosis. It's sort of like that golf score where you want it to be as low as possible, right? Anything from 1 to 3 is considered high therapeutic ketosis. And then finally, anything less than 1 is the highest level of therapeutic ketosis. And it's typically not really achievable unless you're under medical supervision. Now, the reasons for checking a GKI are very similar to the reasons of why you're doing the ketogenic diet in the first place. And for many people, the number one reason is weight loss or fat loss. And so if that's you, you can use the GKI to determine how well your body is breaking down fats and fat tissue into the usable energy source we call ketones, and see how far you are into ketosis. Now, another reason people use the GKI is for fasting, and they want to see how long it takes them during a water fast to get into GKI ketosis, that number of 9 or lower. Some people use the GKI for cancer prevention. If you listen to some of Dr. Seyfried's interviews, you'll see that he mentions for cancer prevention getting down to a GKI of 1 to 2 at least once a month. And that's enough for mitochondrial health to be promoted through a process he calls mitophagy, which is the cleanup of damaged or dead mitochondria through the process of autophagy or self-eating, basically a process to clean up cellular debris. Another reason people check GKI is to check on their insulin resistance. I've known couple type 2 diabetics that have put their diabetes into remission, getting into ketosis, monitoring it, and completely reversing their type 2 diabetes. Okay, so how did I get my GKI so low at 0.7? Before I get into the details, hit the subscribe button if you're digging the content. All right, on a daily basis, for the most part, I eat a ketovore diet, which means I eat mainly animal-based products. I do allow dairy, and sometimes I'll allow some vegetables like broccoli and cauliflower. And it's not uncommon for me to bounce between ketovore and carnivore. It really just depends on the day and what we have available. And up until this time, my lowest GKI was 1.1. And when I'm checking my GKI, I'm typically bouncing between 3 and 6. Now, if you're looking for the best way to get into ketosis, come back and click this video card for information on that. Okay, so to get down to that number of 0.7, it was pretty simple. I basically ate 1 pound of 80/20 ground beef per day for 4 days straight, and that's all I ate each day. If you look at the macronutrient ratio of 1 pound of ground beef, it's pretty good actually. You're getting 72% of your calories from fats and 28% from protein and 0 from carbohydrates. Now on day 5, I fasted the entire day until I ate lunch the very next day on day 6 at around noon. So basically I capped off the 4 days of ground beef with a 42-hour fast. Now just prior to my lunch on that 6th day, I checked my GKI. My glucose was 61 and my ketones were 4.3 for a total GKI of 0.7. Now with this, your mileage may vary and your results will depend on really a lot of things. Number one, are you new to the ketogenic way of eating? Are you fat adapted? Are you under a lot of stress? Are you sleeping well? Are you exercising much? What are your typical eating habits? Are you on certain medications, as some of them may affect GKI? And so on and so forth. But I wanted to show you how I got to my lowest GKI to give you a starting point and a reference for comparison. Hey, listen, I'm Joe on Wellness, urging you to weigh in. Watch these next videos. I'm out.